Okay, at this point on 2011 this evening on Triple J, I'm glad to welcome back to the airwaves Gotye himself. Hello, Gotye. How are you?
Hey, Richard. I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm really great. I'm really looking forward to this next hour. We're basically going to play this record that you've made, Making Mirrors, from start to finish. You nervous? you feeling okay about that?
Oh, I don't think there's anything I haven't heard before 1,000 times.
But you can't change it now.
Well, it's true. No, that feels really good. There was a time there where I was really anxious about not being able to do that, but now I feel very good about it being finished and very grateful that you're going to play it in full.
Well, it is a very special album. I'm sure everyone's going to agree once they hear each of the tracks off it. So we're going to talk more about the making of the record as we go along, but I want to play the first two tracks, which aren't very long, and I'm going to start right now by playing the title track, which is just a very short introduction. Can you kind of set up Making Mirrors, the title, what this little introduction is, and if there's any relevance to it?
As with my previous albums, the album title came very late in the piece. It was a direct response to the artwork that fronts the record, which in this case is a painting by my dad that he did in the 1980s, which I discovered also quite late in the making of the record. I uncovered it amongst some old bills and newspapers and stuff that were sort of sitting in boxes in the barn where I'd been recording and where my folks had stored a heap of stuff over the years. And I'd been looking around for artwork for quite a while for the record and nothing had felt right. So yeah, I kind of found this piece and once I settled on it as feeling right to front all the music on the album, as I did with the previous records, I kind of looked for some kind of words that had resonance with the actual look of the artwork, but that also felt like they meant something to me with the music.
Wow, that's really close then. So the artwork, for people who can't see it, it's kind of like a kaleidoscope image, really, isn't it?
Has that element, yeah. I suppose it experiments with colour and mathematics. I think the reason I had a gut level response to it is because maybe similarly to my music, it has some kind of meeting point of, maths and quite formal, sort of exploratory things, but also just an emotional element, I guess, which is for me the watercolour that my dad's used, and this kind of cascading graded versions of watercolours. Different colours get darker and lighter and make these patterns with triangles and squares in the piece. So yeah, I think my response was on both those levels, which is usually the thing that draws me to sampling records as well.
So he did this painting in the 80s, but you basically didn't discover it until quite recently.
Yeah, there's my dad, sort of would paint as a hobby at various times, and there's various pieces I'm pretty familiar with that have either been on the wall or in folders in the family library over the years. But yeah, little things seem to slip through the cracks. I'd find little bits and pieces over the years, like doodles he would have done, or little scribbles and things that I would actually find like a little, tiny pieces of art. Really, Dad has a real style to anything he does, and so I was quite impressed. I'd never found this particular piece before because obviously I was really into it, and then eventually wanted to use it for my record.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's extraordinary. Okay, enough about your father. As important as he is, we'll speak to him another time. Let's get into it. The first couple of tracks from the new Gotye album, Making Mirrors. It's out next week. You're going to hear it in full right now on Triple J. Let's start with the title track and then we'll get into track 2, which is a good one. It's called Easy Way Out. Okay, I think I've actually mentioned to you once before, Wally, we're speaking to Gotye tonight on Triple J. There's the two musical moments which kick off the new album, Making Mirrors. That track is called Easy Way Out. It's a terrific start to the record. It's such a short track, though. I could have heard that track doubled and still liked it. Why did you cut it down to under 2 minutes?
It was never really longer than 2 minutes. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, both the sort of just on a minute opening piece, Making Mirrors, and then Easy Way Out being just under 2 minutes, they're both kind of like little teasers, I guess, in a way at the start of the record. Making Mirrors as a piece was also originally a far longer piece of music, just instrumental, that I couldn't seem to finish, and that I decided to kind of co-opt with some lyrics right at the end of the record to front the whole album process, because it just didn't feel right to me to start the album with Easy Way Out. Perhaps because, as you said, it is such a short song. I don't know, for some reason it just didn't feel right for me to start on that kind of sampled rocky type of vibe, but rather to enter into it with the flutes that Making Mirrors used to open the record. But yeah, I don't know, Easy Way Out. Maybe it's like have a little perverse satisfaction in the fact that, I could kind of do more choruses and, ram this home. But you know what? The song's called Easy Way Out. It's about wanting to escape. And right about this moment, it's time for it to finish.
To let it go. Yeah, I love that approach. I've got a million of these songs. I don't need to milk this one much more than 2 minutes. Okay, it is. It's a really great upbeat track, and that is pretty much how the album starts. We're going to get into a big section of the record now. We're going to hear the next 4 tracks back to back. We're going to hear Eyes Wide Open, which of course you gave gave us last year and was a bit of a hit here at Triple J. But speaking of hits, Somebody That I Used to Know is the next track that we're going to hear. It's just gone absolutely ballistic, this single. It's been accredited as a gold single, which in this day and age is a real feat. The video's just gone nuts. People have been downloading that and also streaming it like you wouldn't believe. Did you, when you finished this track and you got Kimbra in to do the co-vocals, did you feel good about it?
I felt it had a spark. I didn't feel maybe the same thing I've had once or twice before with certain earlier songs, that when I finished the mixes on them, that it had that moment that made me go, yeah, I've nailed something here. I think people are going to respond to this. I feel great about it. I can't wait to put it out there. This song, I guess, was so even much harder and more frustrating to finish, that almost it got beyond the point of me being able to feel that satisfaction with it. It was more of a relief to finish the song and go, yes, it's definitely the best it can be. It worked out. Kimbra's amazing. She's really made this song come to life, that pivotal moment in the middle of a tune. But I could hardly even muster the enthusiasm to want to listen to it. I was so over it.
What made it so hard?
I guess I'm no stranger to taking long times to finish even some songs. I mean, like the song Heart's a Mess seemed to sit around for like off and on 2 years, having little bits added to it until it was finished. But it didn't feel as laborious somehow in some way, or as much of a challenge as this. It felt like when I was making that other track that I was inevitably going to sort of reach the end point and it was going to make sense. But this song felt much, much closer to the Too Hard basket a lot of the time, and felt very close to me going, no, I can't actually listen to this song anymore, or I can't find the energy to be the person who needs to finish this off, because it's just not going to get there. So it's hard when you get to that point, and I got to that point with a lot of songs on this record. So there was a big element of me just having to push forward and go, come on, get it together. You've put so much energy. You loved this when you first started writing it, and it had a spark to it. You've just chewed on it too much, but you still have to get it over the line. And everybody else's perception is not going to be the same as your, intense kind of, long journey with it. So try to forget that and just get it over the line. Well, but that was really, that kind of dictated my experience of finishing this song.
Okay, well, on behalf of everyone, thank you for persevering with this track. I can't imagine.
It feels so absurd to say, but it's this painful experience. I feel like, if I tell that story now and I feel like, oh, you're just being an idiot. I mean, it's not that hard to make songs and write pop songs, but maybe as my production skills and my aspirations for what I do on my records have increased with this last record, I get greedier. I want to finish things quickly. I can see what they could be, and I don't want to sit around for 5 or 6 months, as happened with this song, going, just be patient. No, it didn't really work out. That's all right. Maybe the next one will work out.
Wow.
That's all right.
I was going to ask you, 5 or 6 months was pretty much the duration of the creation time? Yeah.
From the point of finishing the female lyric in the song and going, right, I need to find someone to really make these very pivotal 6 lines, kind of turn the whole song around, to actually finishing the vocal with Kimbra and going, yep, she's nailed it. It's really brought the song to life. That's about 6 months.
Wow.
So the whole thing was about 9 months, but that 6 months single-handedly kind of held up the whole finishing of Making Mirrors, wanting to finish that song and get it right.
Quickly, before we hear it, and everyone's hanging out to hear it, they just love this track to death. Is it fictional or is it autobiographical? Did you go through something like this?
It's both. There are some songs on this album that are very, very direct and personal. This one is more of a collection, I think, of experiences, maybe things that have been in my unconscious for years that I'm kind of just have mulled over and that have found voice across these particular 3 minutes. There's a few lines that are probably fiction. I don't think I've ever really felt, that bitter or had that experience, but others that are definitely things I've felt and experienced. So it's a big rolly ball of various relationships I've had.
Okay, Wally DeBacker, who is Gotye, is with us tonight on 2011 here at Triple J. We're hearing the whole of Making Mirrors, his new album, in full. Let's get into a chunk of it right now. Here's 4 songs back to back, starting with the single, Somebody That I Used to Know. All right, on Triple J, so following on from Somebody That I Used to Know, Eyes Wide Open, then a really interesting track called Smoke and Mirrors, and then finally right there, I Feel Better. We'll talk about Smoke and Mirrors in just a moment, but Wally DeBacker, who is Gotye, is with us talking about the making of this new album. So I Feel Better. I mean, the first time I heard that track, I don't know whether you're a Stevie Winwood fan. See, everyone mentions Peter Gabriel when certain songs of yours hit the airwaves. They can kind of hear a similarity, but I often reckon there's a bit of early Stevie Winwood in the sound of your voice, especially with the stuff he did with the Spencer Davis Group in the 60s. Now,
oh, great. Wow, some amazing vocals there. That's very flattering.
So good, you have heard. That's that period that I'm talking about, because I was worried that you'd just go, what? Never heard it.
Oh, no. Well, I mean, hey, my other band, The Basics, have kind of effectively, me and Chris in that band started off the basics, loving Spencer Davis Group and going, man, we got to do stuff that's got this kind of energy. It's really ripped and just high energy and simple and, really stripped back. So we've listened to plenty of Spencer Davis Group.
I didn't know that about the basics. That's interesting. Okay, because the Spencer Davis Group and Stevie Winwood, who was really young at that point in the 60s when he fronted that group, I mean, a decade later, people like Phil Collins and then Peter Gabriel were kind of picking up vocal cues from what he had done 10 years before.
Yeah, I'd never thought of that, but I guess you're right. In that very 80s, more produced way, they were kind of taking cues from so much earlier soul, kind of raw, more performed stuff.
So we were talking about how hard it was to nail a song like Somebody That I Used to Know. By comparison, is a song like I Feel Better something which just comes very quickly?
It did in this case. It was good. It was it had that exuberant feeling I was looking for, and I wasn't kind of forcing it. I did like a couple of vocal takes straight into my MacBook Pro computer, actually, into the mic, and then did have to do quite a bit of fiddly work to make it sound half decent afterwards. But the MO was very much to be quick, very raw, not polish things too much, because I think I felt a bit like I had taken the wrong path and kind of taken a very polished recording path to the song In Your Light, and that was what had held back the feeling of immediacy and rawness to it. Yeah, it was all done in sort of a matter of an hour.
I also just wanted to touch on Smoke and Mirrors, which we heard in there as well, just before I Feel Better. A fantastic smoky rhythm. Did you write that one starting with the drums?
Not really. It was more the keyboard line that starts the tune, the kind of strange, stretched, sort of distorted Rhodes sound. And then the kind of 6/8 feel and all the Afrobeat percussion and sort of shuffly drum rhythm all followed from there.
Yeah, I love the rhythm in that track. That's why I thought it might have started with a sense of rhythm and then you sort of overlaid it on top. Okay, Wally DeBacker, who is Gotye, is with us on Triple J. Let's get into two more cuts from the album Making Mirrors, which is out next weekend. You're hearing it in full for the first time tonight on Triple J. In Your Light, quickly before we play it, if I said George Michael Faith, would you hit me or would you say yes?
Great track. I love that track. Yeah, I can hear there's resonances of that in this. I would go as far as to say Katrina and the Waves, Walking on Sunshine.
Oh, another, for a similar period, 80s again, a little bit earlier than the Faith George Michael song, but yes, I can kind of hear that exuberance coming through as well. And just, have you got when you perform this one on stage, have you got a bit of a dance move in mind for when it hits the set?
Oh, I don't yet. No, I can't go, blue jeans, shaking my tush, George Michael style. I think I'll be busy. I'll be busy clapping my hands and hitting lots of things. Not audience members, just more drums and stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, hide yourself behind the percussion for this one then, if you don't want to dance out in front. Gotye is with us. Let's hear it. This is track 7 from the album In Your Light.